What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. We are here for Chemist Warehouse. Head into Chemist Warehouse for great savings. Subscribe for the Captain's Run on Apple, Spotify, or where all good podcasts are downloaded. Text in 0457 736 736. I'm sure with Origin being around, the text will be colourful. We love it. We enjoy it. So the banter, bring her on. Bring her on. Make sure you're following our brand new Twitter profile at Captain's Run NRL and follow at SEN League on Instagram and TikTok. Smithy, how's Queensland camp going, mate?
Campy, how are you, mate? I'm sitting in my hotel room today up on the lovely sunny Gold Coast, and it's going good. Camp's going good. We've been in now for a few days. The players all got together Monday up in Brisbane, and it's going good. We've had a couple of training sessions, a couple of new faces in the footy side, of course, that we'll talk about as the show goes on. But no, everything's going really well here so far. No illnesses, nothing like that going on. So happy camp,
mate.
Happy camp, mate.
How's the feeling around the place? Because I think, outside looking in, obviously, the squad's great win game one. But outside looking in, you'd say your biggest hurdle would be not that they will be complacent, but that would probably be the biggest thing to be like knocking on the head as soon as the boys get in.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. It's a good point that you make, because that's the biggest threat to the Queensland footy side in game two, isn't it? Thinking that, well, we've won game one and we're in a very good position being 1-0 up in the series, and we're heading home to Suncorp Stadium in front of our home fans. That's the biggest danger for the Queensland football side, is thinking that that's going to get the victory for them in this game too. But, you only had to remember last year where, the Maroons won game one down in Sydney, went over to Perth. I know it wasn't their home ground, but they went to Perth and they were embarrassed. That's what happened. They were embarrassed by the New South Wales Blues, and they were absolutely smashed on the scoreboard. A couple of things didn't go the Queenslanders' way that night, but they were outplayed. They were out enthused. New South Wales played with a lot more energy. So, I think you'd be silly not to assume that that's the way New South Wales are going to come this time around as well in game two. This is do or die for them now. So there's no guessing as to how the Blues are going to approach this game. If they don't come up the Brisbane and play their best football next Wednesday, well, their series is done. So that's the only way they're going to play.
Mate, it's
so that's the biggest. Yeah, that's the biggest threat for the Maroons, and the coach. He addressed that fairly early, is to say, hey, boys, like there's absolutely no reason to be comfortable where we are right now. The challenge is now to, learn from game one. The effort was fantastic. I'd like to think that we could play a smarter style of football as well from what we played in Adelaide, and we can make improvements. But, the challenge is to make sure that this preparation is right and that we're at our very best on Wednesday. We have to be at our very best next Wednesday.
Yeah, it's almost, as I said, it's that fine line between complacency and also looking at the game one and going, hey, boys, we actually didn't play that well. Like, we really didn't play that well. So imagine what we can do if we play well.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's again another challenge for this footy side, is that you need to acknowledge and congratulate the footy side on the effort that they played with, in particular. When they were defending their try line for numerous sets, New South Wales spent a lot of time in Queensland's half, and they were able to somehow repel them away from the try line. And, thinking back to those last two tries with only 12 men on the field, being able to come up with those two huge plays was pretty incredible. So, you need to acknowledge that stuff too. But there's so many aspects of the game where we could have been a lot smarter, play with a bit more intelligence, particularly our key players at times, just coming up with the right play. They were in position to do these things on the field, but we probably just weren't smart enough to, get the right plays on at the right time. And they've seen that vision. They've learnt from that. And so now that's, I guess, from Billy's point of view as coach, is he's challenged the guys to go out there and say, hey, listen, we can be so much better than what we were in game one. We need to be better than what we were in game one if we're a chance of winning next Wednesday.
Now, Maroons update thanks to Auto Masters. Win tickets to State of Origin Game 2 thanks to Auto Masters. Queensland Maroons squad for Game 2. Jairo, Gilbert, Cobbo, all out due to injury. Nanai, Fodawaker, Coates, all brought into the squad. AJ Brimson, Corey Horsburgh are also brought into the squad as 18th and 19th man. Christian Welch, unavailable through suspension. Some others who missed out is Corfusi and Capewell. First of all, just, I guess, walk us through, I understand that you aren't a part of the selection board, but I guess the thought process behind the selections in guys like Nanai, Coates. What was the kind of, the thought process?
Yeah, well, I guess, just looking at those guys that unfortunately are injured. So Jai Arrow, Tommy Gilbert, they're gone for the series. Tom Gilbert, of course, he's out for the entire season with that dislocated shoulder from game one. And also big Selwyn Cobbo on the wing. So he picked up a hip injury in game one, Kempy, and it's sort of plagued him over the last couple of weeks. He's actually been playing for the Broncos with that hip injury, and he's been challenged and trying to do his best. But the feedback from the Broncos staff after last week's game was that he really struggled to get through that match. Even though I think he scored a couple of tries, but he just struggled through the match. And the feedback was that if he come into camp, he would really struggle to actually take part in any training session during the week.
Yeah, okay.
And that you'd have to leave him almost up until the game to get him on the field. So that ruled him out with that injury. So the changes that Billy and the selection team has made is all through injury. Unfortunately, we would have loved to have those players fit and ready to go, to go into game two. But the selection, I guess the thoughts around Jeremiah Nanai, he's spent a fair bit of time on the sideline this year through suspension. He's had two lots of suspension that he's spent time off the field with. But I think, if you've seen his game, it was about 10 days ago against the Storm. He looked explosive. He looked like he found that form that he had from last year. Now, he was a part of the series last season, so I think that was what got him into this team for game two. He was challenged by Billy to spend that time where he was away with suspension to go and work on his game, find a bit of fitness, and just show that energy that he had in 2022, which he did. He come out and played that way, which I think impressed Billy and the selectors. Mo Fodawaker, look, I'm really happy for Big Mo. He's been outstanding for the Titans all year. Now he's played for Queensland already, but it's going back a few series. But that's reward for his consistent performances with the Titans. And I guess the same for Xavier Coates. I think it was a 50-50 call in game one, whether Xavier would have taken part. He missed out. But this time he gets the opportunity because Selwyn's injured. And look, he was really strong for the Storm in their big victory over the Sharks on the weekend. So really excited to see Big X go about his business this week.
And obviously, a big out. Well, maybe, it's understandable, but a big out, Kafusi. What was the? I guess was it just game time? Or?
Yeah, it really come down to lack of game time, Kempy. He's another guy that spent a lot of time off the field this year with suspension. He's had two sort of big blocks of suspensions this year, like four weeks each, I think it was. So that's really the only reason why he wasn't selected in this game too, was because he really hasn't had any time on the field. So it's hard to ask someone that hasn't played for a long time to then come into a huge game like game two at Suncorp Stadium and ask them to be up to speed with State of Origin. So look, if he'd had played some football, I think Felice Kafusi would have been picked in this footy side.
Yeah, it's. He's just been. It's so tough for Kafusi because the start of the year was so good for him. It was so good, and then obviously the suspensions. Corey Horsburgh brought in, but I just want to give a quick shout out to Moe as well, Fodawaker. You're totally right. He has been one of Titans' best, and actually, if you go back and watch 2021. Game one, where it was just a devastating night for Queensland, I believe he was one of Queensland's best. Like, he really was the one, not the one, but one of the most forwards to really step forward and challenge the New South Wales pack. So I'm so excited to see him go around.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And that's the way he played in that series for Queensland. That's the performances that he's been putting in this year for the Titans. And Mate, the great thing about him is that his involvement. For a starting prop, a big guy, and he gets through a mountain of work. Like I think this year he's averaging like 160 metres a game. He's got high work rate in defence, and he does a lot of the little clean-up stuff around the middle as well, which is I guess a part of the game that we value when we don't have the footy. So, look, Big Mo, he ticks a lot of boxes, and he was very close, I guess, in game one as well. But just the sheer form of the middle forwards that we had available for game one, I guess, was part of the reason why he missed out. But, he's got his opportunity now with a couple of injuries, and he certainly deserves that opportunity. Corey Horsburgh as well, Kempy, I think. Yeah. I guess the big red fella, he's been fantastic, actually, the first couple of days in camp. He's just like a little kid at Christmas. He's so excited. He's bouncing around. He's got great energy, and I've been really impressed by watching him move on the training paddock and his ability to get around the field for a big fella. I've actually played a couple of times against Corey, sort of at the end of my career, and but not until now where I get to sort of see him live at training and watching his mobility and his ball skills for a big fella too. It's been really impressive. So I think he'll learn a lot from being around the group this week, and I'm sure at some stage in the near future he'll be wearing a Maroon jersey.
It's really exciting for Corey Horsburgh, and he is a man that has just been working his absolute backside off down for the Raiders this year. I mean, if you're a fan of Rabbitohs or Titans or Broncos and you haven't had a chance to watch the Raiders, have a watch of the Raiders and just keep your eye on Corey Horsburgh. He is the heart and soul of that team. He really is.
Yeah, mate, and he does all the little stuff, eh? Like you watch him playing for the Raiders, they kick downfield. Like he's the first one down there on a kick chase. He's doing all the little stuff around the middle, as I said, similar to Mo Fodawaker. He's just busy, and he just loves getting involved, and he's a team first type of guy. So that's a big reason why he's in there in this camp right now.
Now we're going to head to a break. After the break, we have Queensland coach Billy Slater on the line for a chat.
The big dog.
Yep. Now a lot of people might think Smithy was the one that got him, but it's actually me. I got him on the show. So anyway, we'll see you on the other side of the break. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of the Captain's Run. Now, very exciting times. We have the Queensland coach Billy the Kid, Billy Slater, on the line. How you going, brother?
Good, thanks, Denon. How are you, mate?
Mate, I'm really good. Look, let's start this off with a burning question I have with you, mate. And look, Smithy wasn't the one that told me this. This is just whispers out of the camp. The boys reckon that you're all around in the big suite up the top. That's what they reckon.
Mate, I'm in just a humble swag at the moment. Under a Gumtree century code.
Oh wow!
Pitch the tent. So.
Hey, Campy, I'll tell you, I got a phone call at about 8:30 from the coach, and he said, "Mate, hey, assistant, I need my coffee now, please." So I went down and got it for him, right? I knocked on the door, and it opened up, and I was like, "Mate, how many rooms do you need for one person?" Like, it was like, there's a lounge room, there's an ensuite, there's a walk-in robe. I'm like, mate, what's going on here?
Hey, he's getting used to this media stuff, isn't he? He's throwing a bit of GST in there and making up some stories, and he's getting good at it.
Mate, how has camp been? Obviously, it's I just obviously assume it's a different feeling going into game one over game two. What's the broad message as a coach heading into a game two decider at Suncorp?
That's the task in front of us, Kempy. It's that's obviously what we've got, but at the end of the day, I think it's around the foundation that this group has built over the last 18 months, and it's about continuing that, making sure that we don't expect it to just happen again. In terms of the performance, you've got to go and earn that every preparation, and first and foremost, that's our priority. And then once we get that right, then we can start strengthening some parts of our game. So as much as Suncorp Stadium in 8 days' time is is the goal, and that's where we're heading. I think there's a bigger picture to this group, and they started building that 18 months ago, and they're certainly on a journey together and creating their own legacy in this Queensland jersey.
Bill, there's always a risk, of course, after the team winning game one, heading back to Suncorp Stadium to play in front of their home fans. There is a risk of some sort of complacency. How do you go about that as coach to make sure that that's erased from the players' minds?
Yeah, I think that's human nature, complacency. And complacency comes after a bit of comfort. So I think first and foremost, you look, to see if there's any comfort in whether it's individuals or the environment. And that's one thing that I haven't felt in the first 2 days of camp is any comfort within the organisation or within players. Everyone's still striving to prepare their best, to be at their best, and even build some parts of the footy team. So obviously that's human nature, complacency, but you can certainly put things in place to give yourself the best chance to make sure it's not in your team and your performance.
Now, there's 3 forced changes to the footy side. Jai Arrow, Tommy Gilbert and Selwyn Cobbo, of course, all out injured. Give us your thoughts on the new faces. Nanai, Fodawaker and Xavier Coates. How do you see them slotting into the footy team?
Yeah, well, firstly, Smithy, they've all played for Queensland. Jeremiah was a big part of the team last year and really built his game, and we saw the performance that he had in Game 3 last year. So he's had a bit of an up and down season with some suspension, and I was really pleased to see the way that he came back for the Cowboys against the Storm after a month on the sideline. So he had a whole heap of energy about his footy, and he really earned his opportunity to get back into this team. Xavier Coates, he played Game 1 last year and unfortunately got injured and never recovered in time to be available for selection in Game 2 and 3. So he gets his chance. And Selwyn he's just not quite 100%. And look, you can play this game, when you're not 100%, but we just felt that, the best thing for the team was to bring Xavier in and allow Selwyn to, fully get over his injury. And Mo Fodawaker's, playing some great footy. I think you call a fair few of his games, Cam, and, you see firsthand what he brings to the Titans, and, he's just been waiting for his opportunity to come, and he's been certainly capable of playing for Queensland for a while now, but given the injuries to Jai Arrow and Tommy Gilbert, the opportunity comes up for Mo, and I'm looking forward to seeing him play in a Maroon jersey again.
Mate, when you look at the squad, it actually, in key positions, you have players that are a little bit older, and then across the squad, the squad is quite young.
If you're the best person and you're performing the best in that position, we think that that's the right way to go. We'll go that way. I don't think it's, succession plans and all that sort of stuff at this level. I don't believe in them. I just feel that, you're performing well enough and you're the right person for the job, well, you get to represent Queensland. So, some guys I probably don't even know their age, so it's all about performance for us.
Hey Billy, so out of Game 1, mate, what was your message to the footy side, and things that you're happy with, things that you think the team needs to improve on if there's any chance to win Game 2?
Yeah, look, I think firstly, we're all impressed with the resilience of the group, the toughness, and just when it comes down to it, it's a bit of spirit, isn't it? A bit of Queensland spirit that, the adversity that they'd overcome. And they're starting to get used to that, what happened in Game 3 last year. And then, to lose 2 wingers, both our back rowers were off the field at a period of time. Tom Gilbert only played a quarter of the game. We had Dave Fafita and Ben Hunt playing in the centres in the last 10 minutes. And then we go down to 12 men with Tom Flegler going off the field. And while all that's happening, we're down on the scoreboard. And to put that aside and continually play our footy, there was some big plays by some players, in particular Cameron Munster got his hands on the football and took the game on. And, that was really impressive of our Game 1 performance. There's certainly some areas that we can get better at. We had less football. I think New South Wales had 6 more sets than us. We were 10-6 on the wrong end of a penalty count. So there's some areas of our footy that we can strengthen, and that's what we'll be looking to do over the next 7 days.
Now, there was a little moment in the game where Queensland actually had 14 players on the field. And there was a little fine placed in the QRL. Is there, as who's taken responsibility there? Has there been has the hat been passed around the ring for some chipping in some coin, or what's going on there?
Yeah, that's well, we sort of had a staff meeting and just trying to work out whose fault it was. We've come up with a solution that it was Cameron Smith's fault. So he's still got his lunch money from school, so he might be able to go into the ashtray and
Come on, mate,
get a couple of hundreds out for us. But yeah, look, that was an honest mistake. It was actually my fault. I saw Tom Gilbert running, directly off the other side of the field, and at one stage the touch judge was actually in front of him, and then I called to get Lindsay Collins onto the field, and it was a bit of a confused time, and at the end of the day, it didn't impact the game, which I'm grateful for, and but hopefully we can learn from that and sharpen up our transitions a little bit better.
Mate, thank you so much for joining us, Billy, and good luck next week, brother.
All right, thanks, Kempy. See you, Smithy.
Good luck, Bill.
There he is, the Queensland coach. I mean, what an incredible entrance into Origin coaching. Now, it's the job is not done, but to think that he hadn't coached a game before game one last year, it's incredible. So, cannot wait for next week. Billy the Kid looks ready to go. I mean, can you still call him Billy the Kid with the grey peppered through his hair? Jeez, he looks distinguished. I reckon he's getting a bit George Clooney-esque, if I'm being honest. Bit Clooney-esque.
Is he still on the line, Tom? He's probably listening to that.
Oh, okay. I take it all back.
He'd love that.
I take it all back. We're gonna head to a break. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. Let's get into the New South Wales squad selections. Absolutely. Huge changes, some obviously through injury, others through just pure selection. I mean, let's get into specifics first of probably the biggest bombshell, and it was Mitchell Moses has fought his way into that 7 jerseys. I've chosen to go with him over Hines and Reynolds. Your first thoughts on that, Smithy?
Yeah, well, look, I was a little bit surprised. I think, and I've made comment on our show last week, and speaking with Vossi and Brandy as well over the last couple of Mondays, I thought the natural sort of selection process would have been Nicho Hines go straight into that 7 jersey. Now, I'm not too sure. The performance from the Sharks against Melbourne over the weekend may have, had a huge impact on this selection or the non-selection of Nicho Hines. I just thought that, him being in their best 17 for game one and being involved with the squad last year as well, that, he was he was the next man up. And, even speaking with Brandy, I actually asked him on Monday about, would Nicho's performance against the Storm have an impact on his selection? And Brandy actually said that, you can't just, go off one performance, particularly with a quality player like Nicho Hines. But obviously, Brad Fittler and whoever else is involved with the selection I'm guessing they would have been a little bit spooked by that performance and knowing that, going up to Suncorp, was he going to be able to handle, the pressure cooker, which is, it's a do or die game for New South Wales, and would he handle that? So they opted for Mitch Moses, who, to be fair to him, he has been playing some great football, had an outstanding game on the weekend against the Bulldogs. So he's earned the right to, he's recalled to this New South Wales side. I think he's only played the one game for New South Wales, which was Game 3 in 2021. But, he's a good player. I was just a little bit surprised that Nicho Hines wasn't there.
Yeah, it's such a huge call. I'd love to know the process of the selection. Was Nicho already behind Moses going into the game, or was it, truly the fact that he really did struggle against the Storm that lost his spot? I'll be honest, me personally, I had him in my side because I agree with you, Smithy. I thought that If you're in the 17, going into game one, if Cleary was injured, there's no doubt that Hines would have been put at 7. Like, he would have been.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. But I have to say, he did really struggle against the Storm. And if I was a selector, I would be really concerned that heading up to Suncorp for a decider for essentially your debut at 7, I probably would have lent towards Moses just because of the fact that, yes, Hines has been killing it for 18 months now at 7. There's no denying that at all. But because it's this one-off game that it all rides on that, it's such a risky, I guess, proposition when the game leading up where he's fighting for the jersey, he struggled to... I don't think he needed to kill it. I just think he needed to play solidly. If he struggled then, how is he going to go when even more pressure is on in an Origin? Now, he may have absolutely killed it. We don't know. But if that is the thought process of him struggling in that game and then Freddie decided to go with Moses because he killed it, then I can understand that. What I couldn't understand is if he was already out of the frame after game 1. That would be quite surprising to me.
Yeah. And I guess there was a few question marks raised, wasn't there, after or coming out of game 1 was what was the point of the selection of Nicho Hines? You know, he nearly sat on the bench the entire game. Like, if Tom Trbojevic doesn't get the HIA and comes from the field, does Nicho Hines get on the field? I highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. So you're sort of thinking, well, what was he there for? Like, were they trying to play an Origin with 16 men and just have Nicho there just in case? I think they were the questions that were being asked afterwards. But yeah, I guess some people are a little bit confused by that. And one of those people are me. Like, that's why I said he was considered one of their best 17 players for the first match. And now he can't even make the team particularly when there's a position available where he plays every week. The number 7.
Yeah.
But you know, it's you know, as you said, mate, it's a one-off game. It's a must-win game, and you know they've gone for someone who they believe can get the very best out of their footy side and guide this footy team around in a situation where it's a big game. It's a really big game for New South Wales.
Now, thoughts on Stefano Uto Ikamanu coming on the bench and Tavita Pangai Jr. being dropped. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, there's another one too, because Tavita Pangai Jr., I thought he had a fair bit of impact in his first stint for the Blues in game 1. I thought he was their sort of most aggressive ball carrier. He was very busy. He was looking to try and intimidate the Queensland forwards, which at times he got a hold of a couple of the Maroons players, but the one performance and then gone. There's obvious reasons why they've not selected him, and I think there's been some comments around those reasons as to they didn't feel that he was the right person to have there in game 2. So big Stefano, he gets his opportunity. I've been watching a little bit of his season so far. He's got great impact with his style of play. Like he's a big young man, carries the ball strong. Will be coming off the bench, so I'm not too sure what part of the game we'll see him injected. Whether it be maybe halfway through the first half, late in the first half, maybe it might be early in the second half. I'm not too sure, but I think he's been put into this side to have some sort of impact off the bench. To bring some high energy efforts. The one selection I really do like about New South Wales is Reece Robson. I think that's he's been knocking on the door now for a couple of years. His performances for the Cowboys have been outstanding. He's been one of their most consistent players over the last 2 years, and I really think that of course Api Coruscant out injured. If he wasn't injured, he'd be there again. But Reece Robson gets the opportunity now because of those performances for the Cowboys. He's like an old school dummy half. He's very tough, and he's got he's only a little fella, but he's pretty robust. He likes running the football. He's got a really, really crisp pass out of dummy half. I think out of all the nines in the competition, Kempy, he's probably got the most consistent, sharp, long ball out of all of them.
Yeah, wow.
where, like, so Moses and Luai, they can get wide of the play of the ball, and he'll hit him with a bullet on the chest. So there's a lot of weapons to his game, obviously coupled with Damien Cook now coming back into the side. It's a real threat that they have is that combo dummy half role that they'll have for game 2.
I love the selection of Reece Robson, and you've got the mental side of things where you would say he's Origin made, he's built for Origin, but I even think he's actually tactically built for the modern game of Origin. That small, nuggety, quick leg speed forward that seems to really impact the game because the game speed has just increased so much. I mean, we look at guys like Liam Martin, Cam Murray, we look at Cotter, like the leg speed and that compact kind of frame. It just does damage every Origin, especially the last couple of years because of quick play of the balls and the wrestle's not as bad.
Yeah. And it wouldn't surprise me at all. Look, it wouldn't surprise me to see him start the game.
I agree.
Just because of, he's a good little defender as well. He's pretty strong. He holds his ground against the big fellas. And he's got pretty good tackle technique where he can get underneath, the taller front rowers that are running the ball at him. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if he starts. It depends on the tactics, right? Like, how will they want a fast start? I think they will. I think they'll go and try and attack Queensland's middle third. I think they'll send, Turbo in there. They'll send, Latrell in there. They'll send Tedesco in there. And when they can get some quick play the balls and roll-ons, that's when they'll ask Cookie to get running and get forward through the middle. So that sort of it counteracts what I just said about, I wouldn't be shocked if Reece Robson starts, but it all comes down to the tactics and what they're looking for. I reckon they'll look for a hot start. Cookie, they'll want him out running early, and then they'll bring Reece Robson on late.
See, I actually think they might start Reece Robson for the physicality and spare Cookie for the speed. And so you actually go, okay, physicality first 20 minutes. We want someone that is probably younger, more robust at this stage of his career. And then we bring Cookie and we say, Cookie, mate, we just want, you are the quickest dummy half in the competition. We just want pure speed through the middle while the boys are fatigued. I mean, it's a flip. It's honestly, it's just a flip. You could either try to start with speed or start with the physicality.
Yeah, and the thing is too, Kempy, like Reece Robson, he's no slouch either. Yeah. Like when he runs the football, like he's got some pretty good speed as well. Not like Cookie, but he's got decent speed. He's one of the quicker number 9s running around the competition. It all comes down to their tactics and their game plan. Like that's what I'm saying. And if they're looking for a really hot, fast, powerful start where they just come out and just explode out of the blocks, and they really want to try and do some damage on the scoreboard early, I think they'll start with Cook. If it's the other way around where they say, right, let's get out there and, we want to be physical, let's start big and, protect Damien Cook from the first sort of 20 minutes and then unleash him, well, it'll be Robson starting. So, a little bit rides on what their game plan and their tactics are, but either way, it's, they're in a really good position with their 9s. Oh, best hands... Kempy, 1 point this week. This was incredible. Like the 3 nominations this week are just unbelievable. I reckon it's the 3 best of the whole season. We're going to start though with Dallin Watini-Zelezniak. His jump, the leaping catch, and then his ability to, I don't know how he did it, but he got his hands in a position and sort of lifted his legs so he didn't go into touch, and then scored off that Sean Johnson kick. Did you see this try?
Mate, unbelievable.
How do you do this? Because you don't, like, as a winger, you don't practice this at training, do you? You don't get the opportunity to do that.
Well, I mean, even to land the kick there for that spot is almost impossible. So how could you train it?
So as the kick goes over, if you didn't see this, as the kick went to the corner, it actually looked like it was going to... If DWZ doesn't take it, it goes out in the full, but he gets up, he's sort of a couple of feet off the ground, and then he takes it, arms stretched out. But then as he comes down, he sort of contorts his body, twists around, and is able to plant the ball down, which was incredible skill there by DWZ. So that's 1 point. 2 points goes to, it was Cam Munster's flick pass he was layering up a little bit at this stage. He's mad flick pass to Xavier Coates for his second try against the Sharkies. I think they were well and truly on top at that stage when he threw that ball, but just incredible skill again from Cam Munster. But the flick pass, of all flick passes, 3 points goes to Ezra Mam. For the flick pass back to Adam Reynolds, his halves partner. So he got the ball from Adam Reynolds, and then his number 17 skipper backed up. And his ability to take that pass, and he was under pressure because he was at top speed, and he had a couple of defenders, chasing from behind, and just his ability to get it in that right hand and then flick it around, sort of around the defender's body. And the way he flicked it out, like it come out like a spiral pass.
Yeah. Perfect.
It was like a tornado.
Oh, my God.
Just standing end on end and just hit Renault on the chest, and he scored. And that was just incredible. That was just a wonderful play by Ezra. He's playing extremely well at the moment. So 1 point DWZ, 2 points Cam Munster, 3 points Ezra Mam.
Schnitz bite into golden, delicious handcrafted schnitzels after the break. We'll wrap up the first hour. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Captain's Run. Let's get into some text before we head to the break. Hey, boys, love the show. Do you think the boys need much coaching/prep work in the lead up to the Suncorp Origin games? Or does the atmosphere when running out on the field do most of the work in getting them fired up and ready for battle? Cheers, Dirk. Smithers.
Yeah, well, it's a bit of both. I think that you certainly need your preparation. It's really important to have them ready to go. But I think the occasion gets them up and going.
Yeah.
Like 52,000 Queenslanders there screaming. Well, there's going to be some New South Wales fans, but the majority of the people that they run out to on Wednesday night is going to be Queenslanders. And, playing at Suncorp, there's nothing like it around Origin time. So that will get them up for it. But, the preparation is important too.
I'd assume, like a fitness session early in the week and all that, it's more just about getting their mind frame into, like, this isn't going to be easy, boys, rather than the actual fitness of it. Yeah,
absolutely. There's aspects of the training week that are important, Kempy, as I said, so they need to be ready physically and mentally. But most of these guys, if you got them out off holiday, got them ready the next day for a captain's run and then threw them out in Origin, they'd go and perform well.
Absolutely. We're going to head to a break. After the break, we're going to talk about Shane Flanagan. Signs with the Dragons, ?
Wow.
Where should Luke Brooks play in 2024? Hello and welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. We are here for Chemist Warehouse. Head into Chemist Warehouse for great savings every day. Have your say. Call 1300 01 1170 or text 0457 736 736. We've got 1,000 texts, Smithy. Don't worry, guys. We'll get to them later in the show. But let's get into some huge news. Now, I'm going to have to admit to you, Smithy, very confused as to what's happening here. So Flanagan has come out with a statement, and Fox League has released that statement, saying, this is what Flanagan said in the statement. I received the great news today that St. George Illawarra Dragons board have unanimously supported my appointment as head coach in 2024. The details will be finalised over the next few days, and once completed, I will supply a detailed press release. It would be an understatement if I didn't express my excitement at being appointed head coach of the St. George Illawarra Dragons. Thank you for your overwhelming support. Look, it seems like he's going to get the job, but I can't recall a time where a coach has been the one pre-contract signing to come out and announce that he's been appointed head coach. It all is a bit
strange.
Surprising to me. What are your thoughts on the situation?
Yeah, it's strange. Well, have we heard from the Dragons at all? Like, have the Dragons had a press release or a statement stating that they're now going to sign? No, they haven't. Well, there you go. I think this may have been a first. If a coach has done this before, it's we're unaware of it, of course. But the thing I find a little bit confusing in that statement there is where Shane Flanagan says the details will be finalised over the next few days. Yet he says, I will be the coach. So what details need to be finalised? I thought details would be finalised before committing or being announced that you will be coach.
Well,
what details needs to be finalised, Kempy?
Yeah, it's surprising, is it? Because what if he wants 3 years and they offer him a year in an option? Or Okay, from a negotiation standpoint, if I'm going into negotiation and I say, basically, all right, yep, I want the gig, good to go, I'm ready to go, then all of a sudden the other people go, oh, okay, well, you already want the gig, well, we'll just offer you massive unders then, like,
Yeah.
like that's just business.
Yeah.
That's just business. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it is very surprising. I don't know. Yeah, it's all a bit strange, but let's look at it. Okay, let's assume the details get sorted. What are your thoughts on the appointment of Shane Flanagan at the Dragons?
Yeah, well, I guess what everyone was the questions around the appointment and Shane Flanagan coaching again was whether the NRL would have been satisfied with that. After the things that happened at Cronulla. I know it's quite some time ago, but clearly the NRL are satisfied with that, and Shane now having an opportunity to be a head coach in the NRL again. Look, from a coaching point of view, there's no questioning his ability as a coach. He's a premiership coach. He helped guide the Sharks to their very first and only premiership in 2016 against the Melbourne Storm. So he's definitely got the ability. He knows how to bring through some junior players, some younger players, which the Dragons have plenty of at the moment. There's a lot of good young footballers down there, that have got opportunity to play first grade, and it just looks like they're just needing a little bit more guidance to be able to take that next step in their career. So you speak or you listen to a lot of people that have had a fair bit to do with Shane Flanagan, and they all throw their support behind him as a coach, and they feel as though he could do a really good job at the Dragons.
I will. What I like about it from a perspective of the situation the Dragons are currently in is he does seem like a player's coach. And what I mean by that is if you speak to players that have been under him, they're very loyal to him. They're very... the relationship is a close one rather than a kind of teacher-student kind of relationship.
Yep.
I think also if you're looking for a coach that is extremely confident in what he is doing, Flano is that guy. I think he believes in his methods and he believes in the way he goes about things. So he won't lack for confidence in making tough calls.
Well, and particularly with this club right now, and their football. I think that's he'd be if that's the type of coach that he is, and he brings a lot of confidence. He has a strong belief in his coaching, his ability as a coach, and what he expects from his football side. Then that's exactly what the Dragons need right now, is for a guy to come in and say, listen, this is the football team we're going to be. Completely understand, what's happened in the past, but hey, this is the direction we're heading in right now. Educate the players on the steps that need to be taken to start heading in that right direction, and then continue to guide them along that path, which, he did it at the Sharks, which in the end, it culminated in a premiership for them in 2016. So, not saying that that's going to be the same case at the Dragons, but I think that they'll benefit enormously from having someone in there with the confidence and the belief in their own coaching that this is the way this is how we bring about change. These are the steps that need to be taken, and we'll continue on that path until we find that change.
It's I do think that because it is a merger club and the board is two different kind of parties or alliances, if you will. I think that they did need quite a strong coach, and I just never have seen a coach come out and say that they've voted unanimously to appoint him, because you think from a perspective of a board can vote unanimously to bring a coach on board. But then the negotiations could break down. Flano could want 4 years or 5 years, and they could say, "Nah, you get a year." So it's a very interesting situation. But look, I think that when you're looking at coaches on the market right now, you've got Desi Hasler, Riles obviously denied. They said that Ben Hornby had applied, and they also said Dean Young. I'm not sure, that was all reportedly.
Yeah, two former players.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that is 100% though. But outside of that, coaches, there's really not many of them.
There's not, no, and there's a couple of former head coaches still involved in the game now that have said, I don't want to be a head coach any longer, and I completely understand their reasons for doing that, because there's a lot of pressure involved. But I don't think it's any secret, Kempy, that I think Shane Flanagan's been keen to find a head coaching role for quite some time now. And I think for the Dragons, I think he'll bring a lot of change to their football. Not just the football team, but the football department, and they need to. What they need to do is they need to back him with those changes.
Absolutely.
And just say, Shane, what do we need to put around you? How can we help you, build what you're looking to build? How can we support you in these different areas? And then just publicly come out. Well, he's saying that they've publicly supported him through this appointment, but through the early stages, there still might be a little bit of heartache. There still might be a little bit of heartache in those early stages where he's trying to bring that change to the football club and the way that they play their football. But they just need to keep backing him until that change happens and a positive change I'm talking about, and they start winning their football games.
Yeah, I agree. I think that sometimes clubs can bring coaches on and there's a bit of pain initially, and they, admin starts stepping in and making decisions. They've got to back him all the way. And as I said before, live by the sword, die by the sword. So at the very least, let's say they back him all the way and he's been there for 2 years, let's say, and they're still struggling. You can go, mate, we did everything you said. And there's a very easy way to who has responsibility as to why this is the way it is. Whereas when all different parties are stepping in and making decisions, it's very hard to look at and unpack, like, whose fault is this really? Like, how do we fix it when we don't know what the reason was? Yeah. And also, on top of that, is if you back him all the way, he's won a comp before. This is not an easy thing to do. I mean, it goes without saying. So I think they need to back him all the way to the hills, and that goes with the players as well.
Yeah. When talking about one of those players, there's a lot being said about their captain at the moment, Ben Hunt, and whether he stays or not. How does Flano go about convincing Ben Hunt to stay?
Yeah, wow. It's a tough conversation because Ben
or does he think, or Campy, or does Shane Flanagan think, well, here's a guy that's maybe got a couple of seasons left, one, maybe 2 seasons left when I arrive. Would it be best to move him on?
Well, ironically...
Or if he wants to move, just say, mate, no dramas.
Yeah, because, ironically, you could make the argument that if he says to Benny, look, if you want to go, mate, you should go, it might actually buy him more time because then he can say, I'm back in the youth here. Whereas if he comes in and keeps Benny and they still struggle, it's like, well, what's the difference? Like no changes have been made.
Yeah. It's a big, it's going to be a big sort of 6 months.
Oh, massive. I will say the Dragons, they have such great youth. They really do. Like when you see Sloan, yes, he's still got rough edges around his game. You're Sullivan, you got Amon, you got Sully, you got Lomax. Like these are all really young players. You got Molo, the young Molo that's coming through on the front row that was outstanding on the weekend. There really is a lot to like about the young players. Now, we've got some texts here. This is a text to you, Smithy. Dean from Ipswich. Cam, Cam, do you remember me from Brumby Bill's Steakhouse? I was the guy with the Iron Maiden shirt. Wanted to know if you'd like me to come into camp with my guitar and lead a bit of a sing-along with the boys. You're a legend. You too, Smithy.
Yeah, mate, it'd be great. Maybe game three. Because you've missed our little sort of bonding sort of session. It was last night. Actually.
Oh no!
Yes.
Dino, you missed it.
But mate, we'd love you for game 3. I'll get that organised. I'll make a phone call to Billy.
Okay.
See if he can get that organised.
Billy loves a sing along, doesn't he? Surely.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, Campy. We did have a little bit of entertainment last night. We had a young fella come in and just did a bit of singing, bit of use of some instruments, which was great. And we actually had to get the boys up. Yeah, everyone had to get up and sing a song.
No.
Fantastic.
Oh wow,
fantastic.
We had to
I'll
do
tell
that
you
Warriors.
what. I'll tell you what. I'm glad these blokes play football for a living.
Oh, did it hurt? Hurt the ears?
Oh, mate.
Come on, give us some insight. Who was the worst?
There were some tone deaf people in the room. I'm telling you, some players.
Can you give us some guy? Who was the worst, Smithy? Come on. Give us something.
Who was the worst? Oh, Jesus, some average singers.
Munster can't sing. He can't sing.
I'll tell you who thought he was a rock star, right? But just was no good. Paddy Carrigan.
Oh,
Big Paddy.
It's the long hair. He got caught up in the long hair. He thought he was a rock star.
I think that was the thing. He got up with the long hair. He started throwing that round a little bit, and he was like, he was even thought he was like on stage. Like he's like, come on, let's go, come on. I'm like, mate, Pat.
Oh my
Patrick,
God.
sit down, mate. Sit down.
Holy Schnitz. Time now for the sporting highlight of the week. Thanks to Schnitz, home of fresh, golden, handcrafted schnitzels.
Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cam Smith. Let's get into it. The holy schnitz, mate. When are we getting schnitz again? I feel like we never get it. I can't remember the last time we got schnitz. Seriously.
When are we getting that, Tom?
When are we getting schnitz?
Tom?
Mate, it's been ages.
Come on.
I honestly can't believe it. Anyway, holy
Next week,
schnitz,
surely
next week. Seriously. Smithy, what was your holy schnitz moment?
Mate, my holy schnitz moment was when Manly come out and just absolutely bombarded the Dolphins and put 50 on them. It was just a great performance. And I actually spoke with Anthony Seabold before the game saying, mate, I haven't seen a strong performance from you since 7 weeks prior when they absolutely belted the Melbourne Storm. Where they were physical, like they didn't put a huge amount of points on the Storm, but they bashed them out of the game. But he said, no, look, we recognise that as well, and we want to be playing more of that style of football, and that's what they did the other night. Four players scored doubles.
Wow.
For the Manly Seagulls. So that was my holy schnitz moments, because we spoke about the Dolphins, didn't we, last time? And I said, look, find it really hard not tipping them. I ended up going the Seagulls, but I thought it was going to be a close game, but they were so good. So the performance of the Manly Seagulls the other week, holy schnitz for me.
Now, my holy schnitz moment, mate, is absolutely Ezra Mann's flick pass. I know we've already done it, best hands, thanks to Schnitz, but I can't lie. I can't lie to the people listening. I yelled holy schnitz, and I'm not going to be afraid of it. I'm not going to be ashamed of it. I yelled holy schnitz when that happened. I couldn't believe my eyes that a match winner with such a young player doing a no-look flick pass to the great Adam Reynolds to go over for a win. Now, look, did Brizzy play their best? No, but Newcastle were outstanding, and Ezra Mann, it just... him and Reece Walsh, the ages they are and how long they can play together if they stay at the club, the ceiling is really whatever they want it to be. It really is the talent that those two players has. So that is when I yelled, holy schnitz. Smithy, do you reckon, have the Dolphins reached their peak, or do you think this is just a bit of a setback and they can bounce back a bit again?
Yeah, well, they got a bit going on, don't they? They've got suspensions, they've got injuries. As much as any team has suffered this year, I think the Dolphins have been dealing with a fair bit, and it's a tricky part of the season, isn't it? This origin period where you lose players, you lose your elite players, go to Queensland and they go to New South Wales camps and they're away. They spend time away from your squad, and then you're coming back and they're a little bit fatigued. So it's a bit of a juggling act. I still feel as though like their best football is good enough to get them in the top 8. I still feel they can do that. They've done a really good job to place themselves on the ladder where they can still play finals. Because of their good performances early in the season. It's just a matter of now, trying to find that level of performance that they've had in the first, say, 10 weeks of the season. Hopefully they get some players back from injury. I think they are getting some players back from injury soon. They'll have some returning players from suspension as well. Their best 17 or their best 18 players are competitive with any other team in the comp.
Yeah, and they've proven it. They've absolutely proven it. Got some more texts here. Hey, boys, would a player like Mitch Kenny suit Origin? Starts at 9, moves to front row, plays big minutes, and is a good, solid defender. Thoughts? Cheers, Harry.
Yeah, look, I think, down the track, but I think someone, the two guys in particular, if you look at the four dummy halves, well, Ben Hunt's not a dummy half. He's a 7, but can play 9 and has shown that many, many times in representative football for both Queensland and the Kangaroos. If you look at the four guys playing in that position now, they are the elite ones. And I think that's where other number 9s in the competition now should be striving to work towards with their game and what they're building as young players. If they are or they want to be, which I'm assuming most players want to, be representative players in the future.
Another text here. Hey, boys, if New South Wales win, Beak and Smithers should grow their beards. Thought, Smithy, are you going to grow your beard? Please. I literally
Well, you
can't.
want me to grow one anyway.
Yeah, mate. Honestly, I think you're lesser of a man without it. I just have to be honest. I have to be honest, Smithy. I can't help myself.
Mate, you're just bagging, mate. You're bagging every man out there that doesn't have a beard.
I don't have a beard. I can't even grow a beard. Maybe I'm just projecting my own insecurity about beards. Now we've got some more text here. Hi,
Mate,
guys.
I could grow one in a couple of days, I reckon.
Hi, guys. Great show. Billy Slater just amazes me as a player, and his knowledge of the game is amazing. And as a New South Wales supporter, he's scary as a coach. He impresses me every time he talks. But please, not another 10 years of Maroon making us feel blue. Please. That's from Jim. Jim. Unfortunately, I'm backing Billy all the way. I hope he does make you feel blue. I hope he does. Sorry, mate.
Yeah. It's just that time of year, mate. We can't feel sorry for the opposition.
Yeah, we really... Anyway. Morning, lads. One thing for sure, I wouldn't want the Tigers or Dragons board members make any decisions for me. Merge clubs boards means trouble. That's from Rory. What is that? Bidadubba, Queensland. Wow. I mean, it is interesting when you look at the merged clubs. Now, Dragons obviously had their success 2010.
Yep.
It would be, I guess, a good. Wouldn't be wasted time to find out, do merged clubs find it harder to make the big decisions? Because they've got these two parties that are constantly different, maybe goals.
Well, they got conflict of interest, don't they?
Yeah.
They may have different ideas on organisations and partnerships with different people because they are two separate sort of entities. But it can be successful as well. Like you look at the West Tigers, they're a premiership club. You look at the St George Illawarra Dragons, they're a premiership club as well. 05 for West Tigers, 2010 for St George Illawarra. So they can make it work. Just that is the key though, Kempy, I believe, is that both parties need to be on board and find some common ground when they're making these decisions.
Now we're going to head to a break. After the break, Luke Brooks has informed the Tigers he plans to leave the Tigers at the end of the season. Huge news. We'll get straight into it after the break. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. We are here for Chemist Warehouse. Head into Chemist Warehouse for great savings every day. Brooksy has informed the Tigers he plans to leave the West Tigers at the end of the season. Brooks had a 2-year extension on the table from the club, but informed Benji Marshall on Sunday he would not be taking up the deal. Brooks has played over 200 games for the Tigers, was named the 2018 Dally M Halfback of the Year, but he's also never played finals footy. Thoughts on this whole situation, Smithy?
Yeah, it hasn't been working for Brooksy, has it, for the last couple of years, and he just seems like he hasn't been at his best for quite some time. So I think it's best for both parties that Brooksy's made this decision. I feel as though he's still a very good player, one of the best halves in our game when he's playing his style of footy and when he's at his best. The question though now is where will he end up, and what club will be best suited for him to go to, I guess. Look, I can understand the Tigers' contingent of fans that are like, okay, we have been paying a substantial amount of money, and we understand that the contract is substantially less, so you're taking a massive pay cut. And he has hit good form, obviously did his hamstring. So I can understand Tigers fans being a bit like, mate, could you repay the favour after all these years that we have paid you so much money? But at the same time, from Brooks's side, it's kind of like, sometimes you just need to break a relationship up and think about him. Look, it's hard to say that because he got paid so much money over this period of time. But from a personal perspective, let's just say you take money out of it and you go from a personal perspective, what's best for Brooks? Is it to be the whipping boy of the Tigers for the next 2 or 3 years, or is it a fresh start at a new club where he won't be the main guy? Yeah, and that's the point I was making before, is that he doesn't look like he's enjoying his football right now. Well, hasn't been for quite some time, and that's just my personal opinion by viewing him on the field. And he's come up with some great games of footy, particularly over the last month. I think he's played some wonderful football, but consistently over the last couple of seasons, you could just see that he doesn't look like himself, like we've seen in that year where he was voted, or announced as the Dally M half of the year in 2018, where he sort of, he burst on the scene as a young man. So I think in a situation like that, it's best for both parties, I believe.
Yeah.
It's the best thing for Luke Brooks to move on and find another place where he's going to be happy and find his best football, and for the West Tigers also. They then get to go, right, okay, the Luke Brooks era is over. We find a half that comes in and wants to be here and wants to make a difference and is happy playing for the West Tigers and playing in our system.
Mm. Yeah, it's the tough thing is like he's hit good form this last month.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
So it's like all of a sudden you go, oh, maybe he could be part of the rebuild. But, mate, I think that so much has happened. Just part ways, build again. Yep. The problem is, though, it does put Tigers back a substantial. Like the plan that they have in place for the next couple of years, it almost puts them back at zero because there's no sevens on the market really at this stage. And
well, there's a little bit of talk, wasn't there, about maybe trying to poach Ben Hunt?
Yes.
That's what has been reported. But
I mean, would Ben Hunt go from one rebuilding club to another rebuilding club? Maybe.
Well, mate, if there's a fair bit of cash involved, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, well, fair.
Well, because I think Ben Hunt, he's a realistic guy. Like he understands that he's probably only got 2 or 3 seasons left. If there's an opportunity to get paid well for your services, then why not? You'd have to at least consider it.
Oh, for sure. Now with Brooksy, where could he play in 2024? You got the Raiders. Dolphins, Dogs, Dragons, Knights. These are players. I mean, he could go anywhere. He could be a 14 at other clubs, but I actually think that Raiders might be a good fit for him.
Yeah, right.
And you play him at 6. And you get
and mate, part of that move too would be, would it be a good move for Brooksy to be at a club outside of Sydney?
Yeah.
Like that might be a consideration as well. If you look at those other teams that might be on the table, like a Bulldogs, and in particular a Dragons, they are 2 clubs with a lot of spotlight on them. Around their performances, their position on the ladder, what they're doing with their football. Particularly, as I said, the Dragons. We've seen this year, how much is magnified around their football club and the reporting and whatnot. Is that part of that transition out of West Tigers that Luke Brooks is looking for? He wants a place to play where there's a little less spotlight on him, where he can just worry about his football. I think the Canberra Raiders that would certainly tick that box. Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah, because the other side, you've got the Knights and partnering with Jackson Hastings, which I do like. You put him at 6, but you've got like the Knights, the history with Joey at 7. There were comparisons early in his career to Joey, just with his physique and kind of the way he played. Obviously, he didn't have the career Joey's had. But there would be probably a lot of scrutiny at the Knights. Not as much as a Sydney club, but I think there'd probably be a fair bit due to the history of that 7 jersey, even though he'd be playing 6.
Yep. Yeah, I agree, mate. And again, like die-hard footy town as well. So I guess, stepping into that 7 famous, 7 Newcastle jersey would bring a little bit of pressure. But yeah, well, after you said the Canberra Raiders, and I'm looking at it here, it makes a lot of sense for him. Dolphins, don't know. I think O'Sullivan, maybe their long-term thoughts there in the halves with Isaiah Katoa. Of course, they've still got Anthony Milford there as well, so I think they're sort of covered for the next little bit. But certainly Isaiah Katoa, like a young man, has he turned 20 yet?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, he's been super impressive this year. He's got such a long career ahead of him. Touch wood that he stays healthy and has no serious injuries that keep him out of the game for a long period of time. And as I said, they've got Sean O'Sullivan there as well. He's battling injury at the moment, but I think those two guys still very much in the early stages of their career that they could stay on and be long-term halves partners for the Dolphins. So maybe that's not the place for Brooksy. Canberra Raiders, mate, that's looking like a possibility to me.
Oh, mate, I think Canberra's a perfect fit because Fogarty complements him. Fogarty is just a very structured seven, gets around the park, and it just releases Brooksy to be, free. And what is Brooksy's best part of his game? It's his running game. So I think Raiders would be a great spot for him to land. Let's get to some texts here before we head to a break. Goat and Bloke. As a Tigers supporter, I don't begrudge Brooks leaving. He stayed loyal when Tedesco, Moses and Woods walked. Plus, the way our fans treat him, I'm surprised he didn't leave earlier. From the Mo. Yeah, look, there's probably a large sentiment from the Tigers fans of, watching how he does get treated because he gets absolutely smashed whenever they struggle. It would have been tough. Got some more text here. I'm a Tigers fan and love Brooks. I really hope wherever he goes, he kills it. My fellow Tigers fans can shut up and stop bagging him. Yeah, so, it does look like there's a lot of sentiment from Tigers fans of almost just hoping he goes okay.
Want him to go on. Yeah, that's great. It's great support for their seven, and they just want him to go out and find his best football again, that's great to hear from some Tigers supporters. Yeah,
absolutely. Now, another text. I don't think Brooks owes the Tigers anything. He was the one player that stuck around when Teddy Moses left. If he wants to leave, good luck to him. Yeah, wow. That's actually really heartening to see, footy fans being very, supportive of a player that may leave. Usually the narrative is, fans are tough on players that leave, but every text here has been, mate, Brooksy, go and do your thing and good luck. That's really good to hear.
And he stuck with them, as the listener said. He stuck with them through the tough times. He didn't jump ship when he maybe had the chance early to do it. He stuck with them, and I know he was being paid well. We're not denying that or hiding that fact, but he chose to stay when possibly he could have left earlier. But it's come to a stage now where I think that decision has been made where he thinks that, my time's done here. It's best that I move on.
And you look, plenty of clubs would have been interested. 2018 Dally M half is not an easy thing to win. There would have been plenty of clubs interested.